All right. Uh, Last day. We made it to the end of the series, and I want to start by thanking you for following along this week and last week. Um, but two big thank yous. One to my good friend Bruce Wallen, who commented on a lot of the posts that I made and added some great tips and nuggets for everyone. Um, Bruce also makes the wing bone calls I use. Um, so make sure to check him out and pick up a well-made wing bone call from a pretty daggone good outdoorsman, and he's a veteran at that too. So check out Bruce. He knows a lot about not only turkey hunting but just being in the woods. I also want to thank my turkey mentor, Jeff Butts. If you claim to be a turkey hunter or turkey influencer, um, then and you don't know who Jeff Butts is, then you're not any of those. I was fortunate to meet Jeff years ago and be able to call him a friend, and he has taught me more about turkey hunting than anything or anybody else. And um, everything I've talked about comes from what he's taught me and what I've watched him do, and what he does in his own nuances. And he probably knows those birds better than most biologists and claimed turkey influencers. And if you doubt it, just look at it. Jeff's record. He's got over 500 registered turkey harvests with the NWTF, over 100 slams, to include the Super Slam registered with the NWTF. Um, all of this because what we're going to talk about today. So we've covered a lot of ground. Talked about calls, calling techniques. Uh, we've talked about decoys, gear, shotguns, shotgun ammo, patterning, scouting. Reading sign on the ground, um, adjusting the pressure. And if you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed that every single one of those topics, I kept kind of closing out, or I'd say, the same thing, and that's knowing the bird, not knowing the gear, not knowing the calls, not buying all the new stuff, not running what everybody on social media is telling you to run. It's just a matter of knowing the bird, and that is what we're going to talk about today. Um, Turkey ecology. It's the foundation that everything else is built on. It is probably the most undervalued and overlooked, most under-discussed topic in turkey hunting. You can get on there and you can find 1,000 videos on how to do a yelp, how to do a cut, what gear to buy, what shotgun ammo to use. But you'll find almost nothing about the actual biology, ecology, behavior, everything of that bird you're hunting. And that gap right there is why so many hunters struggle year after year, while a small group of hunters, can walk into any piece of property and kill a bird consistently, everywhere they go. So, I've said it before, and I'm not saying I'm the best, because I'm not. I learn, every day something new. Um, but the reason I've killed hundreds of birds um, across many states is because I knew the ecology. And knowing the bird without ever using a decoy or call is why why I've been successful and why a lot of other people have become successful is because you understand what that bird uh, where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing, um, how they're going to react, and you put yourself, you know, in that environment, and you're patient and you wait, um, and you put them on the ground. It's not a trick. It's not a special tactic or secret from the government. That's just the result of understanding the animal at a fundamental level. So what does turkey ecology mean? You're probably asking yourself, what does that mean in practical terms? It means understanding the breeding cycle and how it affects turkey behavior from early season through late season. Early season, toms are fired up, henned up, moving predictably. Mid-season, birds are starting to feel pressure. Hens are beginning to nest, which changes, the tom behavior dramatically. Late season, birds get a little more educated, more pressured, operating in a completely different mode than they were on opening day. And if you do not understand where you're at in that cycle, then you're hunting wrong, and you have to adjust. Ecology means understanding the habitat. What turkeys eat changes through the season, and where they find food changes. Early season, green ups, those pull in the birds to certain areas. Might still have some mass crops from previous fall that are still influencing movement early in the season. Insects later in the season become a major food source, as weather changes. So understanding, what the birds are eating, on top of how the flock dynamics are working, tells you again where they're going to be. So flock dynamics, how do toms relate to each other? How hens relate to toms? Because remember, when you're calling, you're trying to be that hen. So what's that relationship look like right now? How do subordinate birds behave differently than dominant birds? How the social structure, of a turkey flock shifts through the breeding season into late season. A subordinate tom responds differently to calling than a dominant tom. A henned up tom responds differently than a lonely tom. So if you do not understand the social dynamics, flock dynamics, you're guessing at your strategy too. It means, understanding how turkeys use terrain and cover in those transition zones. How do they move through the landscape? What features, are they using to seek security and cover? And how does weather affect their movement and behavior? A lot of times a weather system will come through, and you go to the spot where they typically roost and they're not there. They might have got hung up on their route 4 hours prior, and they're roosting somewhere else. So you got to understand how everything affects their movement through that terrain. How do they respond to predator pressure? That's another thing. All of that is ecology, and all of it directly informs where you set up and how you hunt. And here is the great thing about turkey ecology, is none of it costs you a single dollar. You don't need a new call. You don't need a new decoy. You don't need a new camo pattern. You don't need a suit that blocks your electromagnetic field. You need to invest time in understanding the animals that you are pursuing. Read everything you can about them. There's tons of great books out there. Talk to the biologists where you're going. Talk to those old woodsmen that have been hunting that area for years and years and years, that walk out there and walk back out an hour later with a turkey slung over their back. spend, time in the woods observing birds when you're not hunting them. Watch how they behave, how they talk, how they move, how they interact with each other and with the environment. That investment pays dividends that no piece of gear ever will. I started this series by giving my credentials of I've killed hundreds of birds across a lot of different states and a lot of different ground. Um, and the reason that I've done that, um, the biggest difference across all those birds in all those states was not a decoy, not a camel pattern, not a call. It's because I studied birds, I studied the turkey, I learned everything I could about them. Um, so that's what I'm telling you to do is, everything is about the bird. Learn the bird. Everything else on social media and all the talks, it's just noise. Once you learn the bird, you're going to become just an amazing turkey hunter and just that much more effective. So good luck this season. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out, call, email. I want to see everyone out there get a bird, but most importantly, just enjoy yourself and enjoy the outdoors. Thanks again, and good luck.